Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Warren Center's third annual Strong Start Virtual Summit powered by Reliant. My name is Lawson Martin, and I'm the Digital Media Coordinator here at the Warren Center. And I can speak for everyone at the Warren Center. We are so glad you guys joined us today, and we're going to learn a lot of powerful and important parenting tips from Minerva Holmes, and we're so excited to be here. If you don't know anything about the Warren Center, we're a nonprofit organization that advocates, serves, and empowers children and families with developmental disabilities and delays. We do that by providing personalized therapy services for children, one-on-one coaching for parents, and providing access to resources and support for families in our community. The Strong Start Virtual Summit is held every year in honor of Early Intervention Day, which we, the Warren Center, actually launched 3 years ago in 2021. This day is meant to raise public awareness of early intervention services for children and families impacted by developmental delays and disabilities. We decided to create this summit because we realize that parenting can sometimes feel very overwhelming, and we want to be here to ensure that anyone watching, that you're not alone in this adventure and that we're here to answer all your questions and really be your go-to resource. So let's see. Today's session is called Unplugged Bonds, Nurturing the Parent-Child Relationship in the Digital Age. The speaker of this session is Minerva Holmes. Minerva is a bilingual parent educator at the Momentous Institute, where she supports different organizational programs with parent formation classes. Her duties include providing parents with social, emotional parenting skills to better their parent-child relationship. If you guys have any questions throughout this presentation at any time, feel free to comment them down below in the Q&A, and Minerva will answer those at the end of the session. With that being said, Minerva, please take it away from here.
Wonderful, thank you. Let me go ahead and provide the PowerPoint here. And good morning to everyone. I hope you all stay nice and cool today. It's going to be really, really hot, but for right now, hopefully you're in a nice, comfortable place. And I just want to welcome you and thank you, the Warren Center, for inviting me and for, entrusting your families to Momentous Institute. So yeah, Unplugged, Bonds, Nurturing the Parent-Child Relationship in the Digital Age. Oh, well, I'm not sure why. I guess there's captions here purposefully, but anyway, so right now, we're surrounded by technology. So basically, technology is here to stay. There is nothing that is going to take technology. This is the new era. This is what our lives are going to be surrounded by. However, it doesn't have to be hijacked by it. Okay, so, it all begins in the home like everything else. So this is hopefully a topic that is easy to just give you some basic. There's a lot of information, but just to give you some basics of why it is important for us to be connected with our children and help them be able to not that much monitor, yes, part of it is monitoring what they're watching, but really helping them monitor themselves, when they're going into a dysregulation. And that goes the same for us, okay? Because, the technology that exists, the way they're created, the colors that are placed are all part of, what gets us hooked to the digital or to the electronic screens that exist now. So what I will do is, there's a brief agenda, topics covered: child development and screen time and parent-child relationship, and disconnect to connect. So basically, the statistics are showing, the Common Sense Media reports that half of all children 8 and under have their own tablet device and spend about 2.5 hours or more a day on digital screens. So, 2 hours doesn't sound like a lot, but when we start looking at the impact of what it does on a daily basis, then I think this will help us, realize, oh, 2 hours is a lot. And so we're going to look at time and all of that in a little bit. as we get ahead in the class. So how do screens and screens how do screens affect early childhood development? Well, it stops a child's ability to observe and experience a typical everyday activity that they need to engage with in order to learn about the world. So everything we do, everything we teach our children, we're modeling to our children. Okay, so if we give them a tablet, if we give them a smartphone or anything like that, it removes that connection from the parent-child relationship. So which leads a lot of times, when I was reading the article, it leads to a tunnel vision. In other words, I don't know how many of you have seen your children, once they're into a game or or television, you can be talking to them and, it's like they've gone deaf on us, right? Like they can't hear us anymore, and so a lot of times what we need to do is we need to get in front of them, or we need to set timers for them so they can know that, hey, it's time. We're going to be shifting. It's going to be time to come to dinner. It's going to be time to go to bed, those kind of things. But no, a lot of times what the smartphones and the tablets do is that they just have them focused on this tablet, on this telephone, which can really, really affect their development. This will not just affect their ability to learn new things, and experiences that we give our children is the way they learn. Okay, so it'll affect that, but also how they interact with others and how language develops. So we're starting to see that even with teenagers, there's not, they're texting each other. They can be in one room and the other teenager can be in the other room and they're texting each other. Okay, so that interferes with that. What we would commonly do is come face to face and interact with each other. So then this says impact of learning and language. So learning and language are two things, and what we focus in when we talk about the screen electronics. So for learning, in the learning section, it says adults are the models for children early in life, which is what I was already mentioning. The interaction parents have through play and life experiences is a time for children to learn important skills. Part of this is that the skills that they learn are from us, the adults, from their caregivers, from their teachers, from their coaches. Any adult or any, person that is older than the child is going to model, okay? And that's how they learn to deal with life. So I don't know if you all remember, but there used to be, I might be, exposing my age here, but there used to be some videos called the Einstein videos. And these Einstein videos were supposed to be like the best thing for kids, but it failed. And one study shows that the reason that the Einstein videos failed was because we were sitting our children's before, in front of the television with these videos that, we're supposed to have all these intellectual things being presented to the child. But it wasn't that they weren't interested in the video. What it was is that there was no interaction. And so this is another example of what happens. You can give them the best video out there, but if there's no interaction, if there's, they can't see facial expressions, they can't see the body language, then, how do they learn, those skills? Language. One of the things that children master between 1 and 3 years old, because they're like little sponges, their brains are like little sponges, okay, is language. And so studies have shown that children learn language best when engaging and interacting with adults who are talking and playing with them. And especially if you have that an only child, you can tell with them. That's where you can really tell, is that because they're around adults a lot, you can tell that they are, their language is better developed because they're always hearing adult conversations. So, language is really important. There is also some evidence that children who watch a lot of television during the early years or elementary school perform less well on reading tests and may show deficits in attention. So a lot of times, um, and there's more, if any of you are interested, hopefully the Warren Center can share when I share my flyers, but I have a class that's called Disconnect to Connect. And, here it's showing us also that a lot of times these like ADHD or where they have distractibility, anything like that. A lot of times, if they have a fast from screen time, okay, and that's what I was saying earlier, they can tell the difference. So it's not that we're going to take the screen away from them. What we're going to do is we're going to help them feel their body, know what it feels when they're overly stimulated because they've been in front of a screen for too much time. So, in this class that I give, we show that sometimes these behaviors that they report at the schools or the teacher is calling us about is a manifestation of simply because the child is overly stimulated. And so what I ask during this class is that we have a fast, that we fast from the screen. Just like when we balance our bodies, when we feel, our body is inflamed or our gut, isn't feeling well, a lot of times what do? We may fast sometimes just to balance our body again. So sometimes we have to do these kind of things to help these children say, oh, okay, this is too much for me, or you will notice it through their behavior because they're not able to focus, they're not able to sleep, those kind of things. Okay. So what does the AAP recommend? So the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that 18 to 24 and younger months avoid screen time, except, and I like this because I'm a granny of 5, okay, except when video chatting with family. That's a positive interaction that children are having with the family. Preschool children ages 2 to 5, 1 hour a day of high quality programming. So what are high quality programming? Like Sesame Street, PBS, something that is going to teach, values and morals and those kind of things, skills where they can survive outside of the home. So, that's quality programming. So then we look at quantity screen time and quality screen time. So short TV like Sesame Street again, or like Daniel's Tiger's Neighborhood, model good social skills, like interacting and playing cooperatively. There's always themes in these shows, right, that give them some social emotional skills. And then you can use screen time also to engage them about what they are watching, especially if it's an educational program. What we tend to do a lot of times is we may use the screen time, let them watch a movie, let them play a game because I'm having to do something. Mom is busy cleaning and, doing her chores and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's fine. You can sit them and they can watch something that is going to give them these social emotional skills. But it is preferred that you sit with them so you can have some quality screen time. The quality screen time is based in the interaction that you're having on what is going on in the screen. They're not just sitting in front of a screen watching, the show, happen. Rather, you can sit with them and you can teach them, wow, what do you think he did that? Or what do you think is going to happen now? And so you ask open-ended questions to where they can start processing from the prefrontal cortex and really get something out of the program. So, the quantity time, of course, as short as possible, but the quality time is that interaction that when you sit with them to watch a movie, to watch Daniel's Tiger or Sesame Street or anything, Mr. Rogers. I still like Mr. Rogers, right? These are quality programs, and you can have quality screen time with your children. So here's the agenda, not the agenda, the chart suggesting screen time used by age. And as you can see here, right here, it says 18 months and younger, avoid use of screen media other than video chatting. 18 to 24 months, parents of children 18 to 24 months of age who want to introduce digital media should choose high quality programming and watch with their children to help them understand what they are seeing. We have to remember that our children are also, at this age, the prefrontal cortex isn't developed, which is the part of the brain that is the executive part of the brain that, helps them process. And all that is not developed for these kiddos that are 18 to 24 months yet. So you sitting with them, explaining to them helps them, because a lot of times they, these kiddos might understand something that could have felt scary for them. You can really help them understand that it wasn't really something scary, but you acknowledge the feeling, you acknowledge their emotion, and then you give them a little bit of explanation. Their prefrontal cortex can just create, if we just let them sit there and they sat through this thing that they felt was a little overwhelming, okay, and never process it or never have anyone to process it with them, they might create their own idea of what this was. 2 to 5 years old, limit screen use to 1 hour per day of high quality programs. Parents should co-view media with children to help them understand what they are seeing and apply it to the world around them. And then 6 to 12 years, place consistent limits. And this is where we start now setting limits, because these kiddos, they get ahead of us. They already know how to go into different sites. They even know sites that we don't even know about. So, there's limits that you can place, how much time they spend on that using media and the types of media that they can use, and make sure that media does not take the place of adequate sleep. Okay. I'm starting to see that a lot of families, including my own children, okay, want to have televisions in the kids' bedrooms. And I'm, advocating that, just like everybody else is, television will keep them up. They won't get a good rest, night's rest. And really, a night's rest is really important, because that's when the brain cleans the toxins of what it has gotten throughout the day. It has its own system of how that works. So kiddos and kids that are 6 to 12 years old, or anyone, even as adults, we need to get a good night's sleep. Then it says physical activity and other behaviors essential to health. So how much are they moving? There's another class that I have called Wonder Woman, Wonder Mom, and it talks about the importance of sleep and how it affects the brain. It talks about exercise and how it affects the brain. So one of the things that they've already taken away from our kiddos from school is what we used to call physical education, PE, right? So we want them to be moving, and if they're not moving at school, we want them to be moving at home. So, try to avoid using this as entertainment. versus going for a walk versus taking out their bikes and letting them ride around up and down the street, on the sidewalk. 12-year-olds and older designate media-free times together, such as dinner or driving, as well as media-free locations at home, such as bedrooms. Okay, so where are you going to allow your child to be able to have some time, on their own? Again, you will have parental controls, okay, but it allows them that freedom that, we're not just hovering over them. They still need to be able to explore. And yeah, sometimes, I mean, if you type one wrong letter on, when you're searching something, they might go into a site that is not appropriate. But again, these are experiences, these are things that you will be able to then say, hey, I saw that this site was opened, and he or she may say, well, yeah, it was because, I was trying to search this and then it took me there. How many times has that happened to us? So we give them a little bit of grace. We tend to be, hyper vigilant with our teenagers, where they're at and what they're going into. And that's fair. We need to, because there's so much stuff out there. But at the same time, we need to give them some freedom as well. Yeah. And then screen time, how it impacts sleep. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the sleep and how it impacts them. And so dysregulation. Okay, so we talk a lot about dysregulation, because if we're dysregulated, we can't function. We just can't. So as adults, our prefrontal cortex is developed versus the prefrontal cortex of a 2 or 3-year-old. Therefore, we can make the decision to put down the phone. I as an adult, because my brain is developed, can say, okay, you've had enough. Oh, wow, I sat here for 2 hours, looking at Facebook and social media. Where, however, a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old does not have that capacity to make the decision to say, oh, I've been playing this game for 3 hours. They don't have that capacity. So because their prefrontal cortex, again, isn't developed. By the way, the prefrontal cortex doesn't get developed completely till about their 24, 23, 24, depends what research you're looking at, okay? So if they have been exposed to the phone or the tablet since they were kids, since they were babies, it becomes their norm. It's not, it's normal for them, and they want more of it, So so how many times have we not seen a kiddo, they have little itty bitty fingers, and you just see their little fingers, scroll up, and you wonder, wow, they know how to scroll up. Yeah, because that's the norm for them. That's what they developed. That's what they were taught. That's what was modeled for them. So a lot of times it's up to us to put those parental limits so they can be able to regulate. Otherwise, they don't have that capacity yet. Even as teenagers, because then when they go into being teenagers, what happens? Their hormones are all over the place, right? They're trying to get that independence. And so it's real important that we become part of, okay, what is it that my child needs, and how much of this does he need, and how much of this is good for him or her? Also, we look at problem solving. It is sometimes easier to rely on the screens to distract a child from a problem rather than having them figure it out and learn to resolve it themselves. It's easier to, we're in a restaurant, and it's easier for me to give them a tablet, my phone, so I won't have to deal with them getting up or asking me questions when I'm trying to have dinner with a friend or with a family, or we're having a conversation, a deep conversation. It's easier to just hand them the phone, and they're not part of the conversation. And a lot of times this is where that interaction is important, because this is also a learning process, okay? Using a favorite song to distract a young child who has fallen and scraped their knee might be okay, but having the parent comfort and cuddle with a child and talk to them is better. Okay, so a lot of times I know with my own grandchildren, they were giving them their phones so they can listen to books. Okay, but and it wasn't, it wasn't a fancy phone, it was just a phone where they could listen to books. um but then we lose the interaction of sitting with our kid and reading a book with them and exploring this book with them and going into the different adventures with them in these books. Okay, so using screen time to distract young children who are having trouble sharing a toy will not help them to learn how to share and take turns in the future, although it may be quick fix in the short term. So again, once again, we tend to just hand the phone to them so we won't hear them scream, so we won't hear them fight, so we won't hear them talk back to us or question us, so this doesn't help with problem solving. And guess what? Although we are in this digital age, we still have to interact with people. And how do we problem solve? How do we problem solve? We don't have the skills. Rather, we have always been given a phone. My coworker's not just going to hand me a phone and say, here, figure it out. Right. So it's really important for us to see that this can be very addictive. Okay. If we don't, if we don't work with them with their if we don't help them understand how this can dysregulate them and problem solve. So they're going to want it more and more and more and more, which feels a lot of times, which looks like a lot of times, addiction. The types of electronic screens can lead to unregulated use of electronic screens. So television versus tablet and smartphones. So the televisions are not mobile. You have your televisions in your living room or bedrooms or wherever it is that you're in your family room, right? Those aren't mobile, they stay there, okay? But the tablets and the smartphones, okay, are mobile. And the fact that they can be taken anywhere and use them anytime is what causes overuse of the electronics. I mean, we have them everywhere. So unregulated use of electronic screens says children are often better than their parents at finding their favorite videos and link to other videos and can lead to hours of watching endless clips. Going into YouTube, watching TikToks, all these social media that we have available and the kids have available. And I know that there's a lot more out there than what we know of. You know, it's unregulated use of electronic screen time because they can keep searching and searching and searching. It's like it's like a rabbit hole. You go in and you start going and going and going and going. So we don't want to give them that access. So how do we monitor that? How do we give them that um, that time that they can use these screens? Actually, also, one of the things that comes to mind as I say this is I'm thinking about when we're driving from school to home or from home to school. It's easier to give them this, right? Well, that's where we can't be with them and they can be scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and searching, and they can get into things that they're really not supposed to be looking at. Unregulated nature of certain sites allows children to watch almost anything. At best, there is little educational value, and at worst, it can be violent or inappropriate content. So, we need to make sure that we are regulating screen time. And again, how are we regulating it? The best course of action is to watch with the child so the parent is engaged in finding content that is appropriate and educational. I know that when I took my grandkids this summer we had a road trip and we drove, and my daughter downloaded the programs that they could search for and see, and view while we were driving. So that was something that she regulated. A lot of times we go on road trips or again driving from home to a basketball game or anything like that, and we just give them the phone and we give them total access to an unregulated time of searching and watching. And if the microphone is low, the volume is low, we have no idea because we have to be focused in driving, right? Tips for parents to limit screen time and connect with your child. So what do we do? And this was taken from Dr. Cross, who is a doctor, a physician at Presbyterian Kamenski Children's Hospital. And these are the tips that she shared. And it says, co-watch whenever possible. If children are going to have screen time, the best thing you can do is to watch the show or game with them to help them understand what they're seeing. Comment on things you notice. Ask questions about what is happening. If someone on a show is singing a song, sing along with your child. Engage with them and repeat concepts after the show is over, so they're more likely to retain that information. So this is where you're going to stay connected with them, and even after the show is gone, what can you still practice? Because it's going to be quality show, right? What can you still practice? How can you still engage with your child after watching this show? Choose media wisely. Look to organizations like Common Sense Media for reviews about age-appropriate apps, games, and programs to guide you in making the best choices for your children. So there's a lot of games, there's a lot of cartoons, but sometimes cartoons, even they seem innocent, or movies, okay? If there's still a lot of violence being shown as part of resolving issues, okay, this is impactful. When we talk about the brain, we know that everything in life stays in the hippocampus, which is the part of the memory, which is memory. Okay. And so I always tell parents, all the good and all the bad, archives itself in memory. So, it doesn't matter that it's a cartoon and they had a little bit of, playful fighting or whatever it is, it's going to get registered there. So when an occasion comes up that looks familiar like that in real life, guess what? The brain is going to say, oh, we know what this looks like. So we know what we're supposed to do here. And then they react the same way that this innocent cartoon, demonstrated as to how to resolve problems. So yeah, be careful in the games. There's a lot of games that are violent. If you're using guns, that in itself can present itself as being violent, depending if the child had a bad experience, right? So how do you interact with your child to help them be able to process what is going on, in their screens, in these electronic screens, so they won't create false ideas, false thinking, okay? How do you engage with them so that won't happen? Keep bedtime, mealtime, and family time screen free. Yeah, don't use screens in the car except for long trips, and consider setting a curfew or an agreed upon time when your family shuts off all screens. Balancing online and offline time is extremely important. So we know that, I always tell my kiddos, have them give you all their, have them give you their phones, have them give you their laptops, keep them. I would keep them personally in my room, right? Because we can go into a deep sleep. And if we leave them out in the living room, if we leave them out in the family room, guess what? They'll be in there and we won't even know, okay? And then 4, limit your own phone use. So we are the example for our children. When I have my class of disconnect to connect, a lot of times I tell the parents we have to start, it has to start with us, okay? And I give them different techniques as to, well, I need to work. Okay, you explain to your child, hey, between, like right now, I have I'm at my daughter's house actually, and so we have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old running around. And so what did we say? Granny is going to be presenting today between this time and this time. Okay, so the same goes with us. We tell our kids, yeah, I know that we're fasting from electronic screens right now, but mommy has to work between this time and this time. Or mommy will check her emails once everybody goes to sleep from 8 to 9. That way we are setting the example for our kiddos. So kids will do what they see their parents doing. At a younger age, their parents is the most important person in their life. So they will model whatever behavior they are seeing. If they see that you're behind a screen all day, every day, then they'll see that it's acceptable and will want to do the same. And then finally, emphasize the big three: sleep, healthy nutrition, and exercise. All three are essential to optimal brain growth and development and health and wellness for children and adults. And excessive screen time can impact all three children who spend more time in front of screens, who have been shown to eat more fast foods, fruits. We want to be able to, if we're taking care of ourselves, we're going to want fruits and vegetables. And so when we have less sleep, a lot of times we tend to want other things that are not healthy for us. There is very important, it is very important to incorporate healthy lifestyle choices as part of the daily routine, as well as limiting screen time. So apart from the screen time, keep ourselves healthy. Again, with nutrition, with sleep, hydration, especially right now, right? In these temperatures that we have here in Texas. So those are very, very, the other important things that we need to look at. And again, I invite you to join us at Momentous Institute if you like. You can search for us, and you can give me a call, and hopefully that's available to you all. And yeah, look into different classes that can also fill in a lot of gaps that were probably left in this short presentation. So that is it on my end. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And again, I thank the Warren Center for inviting me to present here and entrusting your families to me.
Okay, great. It looks like we don't have any questions typed in the Q&A at the moment, but I'll keep checking in the next minute or so just in case someone pops up with a question. But I want to thank everyone for attending today. And I also wanted to thank Minerva for her insight. I know it's so crucially important in today's day and age with technology. So that's really great for all parents to hear. Our next session's at 10 a.m. Central Time today. It's called Parenting the Digital Generation. So during this session, we're really just going to take an even further deep dive on how
I'm
parenting...
having a hard time hearing. Sorry. I know you're saying something, but I can't hear you.
We did receive a question. Can you hear me? The question was, how do we set expectations with our parents or grandparents? Minerva, can you hear me? Okay, well, we're gonna move on. It might be on your end with the sound, and for that I apologize. But like I said, our next session is at 10 a.m. Central Time called Parenting the Digital Generation. If you want to sign up for that, go ahead into your Sched account that you made to create this session with and go ahead and sign up for that. If you can't find that Sched account, go ahead and log back into the warrencenter.org/strongstart. And if you want to rewatch this session today and get any of the tips that you heard written down or just hear them again, I will be posting this session again on our YouTube later next week. So just go to youtube.com, type in the Warren Center, and all the sessions will be there for you. And even ones that you might not watch today will be there for you to watch as well. All right, so thanks again to our sponsor Reliant for providing this session and this summit for us, and then also for Minerva for presenting this wonderful presentation today. Thanks, everyone.